All right, we are live. It is time for another Get Off My Lawn podcast. Welcome, everybody. It is Tuesday night. It is 9:00, and we're ready to do this thing again. So, let's see. I'm going to mute people up here a little bit, just while we get through the opening stuff here. Real quick here, I am your host, John Anderson, also known by a lot of you as Sandhills Shooter. We've got some stuff that we want to talk about tonight. Don't know for sure how exactly the chat's going to go, so we'll have to figure this out kind of as we go along here. But real quick, let's just see who we've got waiting out here in our green room. There, we'll put these guys up on the screen. So, all right, Pat's waving at us. We'll just say hello to Pat and not Lily tonight.
Evening, John. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, no little one tonight. She crashed out literally 1 minute before we decided to go live. So
that's all right. I've got my little one in here with us, and she's probably going to be a nuisance most of the night, like always. So I'll be happy if she crashes out at some point tonight. She's
right.
Herself a dental chew right now, so we call those her toothbrushes.
No, she's chewing on your chair protector.
Oh, she's chewing on my chair. Well,
here. Oh, well, there you go.
You know what? This is the perfect time now that we're live, just to go ahead and give her one of these rawhides. There, have that. Whatever they are, they're not actual rawhide. I heard that's bad. It's whatever's safe for dogs. For those of you out there that are worried about animals being harmed in the filming of this segment, so. All right. Well, Pat, thanks for being here. We've also got we've got like an all Nebraska panel again tonight. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad, but that means we can talk about some Nebraska centric stuff. And those of you that are not from Nebraska that are watching out there, you might just have to just kind of ride some of that out. We'll see what happens. We will maybe save that for towards the end of the show too. But we've got Defense Dad reporting in from the capital city, Lincoln, Nebraska. How we doing?
Not too bad, man. I can't talk tonight. Kiddo got early out of school. We went shooting. I just got done cleaning guns, and I smell like hoppies.
Oh man, I tell you what, if your significant other does not appreciate the smell of hoppies, then they just need to get some better culture. So
there we go.
Wait a minute. Do you appreciate hoppies? Do you appreciate the smell of hoppies? Yeah, she wrinkled her nose up. Okay, well, she doesn't need culture. She's more cultured than me. We do have, as those of you that are out there in the live chat can see, we do have Sandhills Sweetheart is back in the producer's chair hanging out with me tonight. She's feeling a lot better. Not necessarily great. We're back to 100%, but definitely a lot better than she was this time a week ago. So glad to have her back on the upswing for a few more weeks at least, until they intentionally make her sick as part of that process of the stem cell transplant. So if anybody new is joining us out there, my beautiful bride is fighting for the second time in her life with some non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which actually brings me to some of the bills we need to pay tonight. So first and foremost, let's put that up on the screen there and let that ticker go across. If you're out there watching live, we want to know that you are out there. So drop those comments. If it's on YouTube, then there's a live comment section. On a computer, it's off to the right. On a phone, it is down below the video window. If you're on Facebook, you can drop those comments too as you're watching. And we want to know that you're out there. So please interact with us. That's the whole point we do this. It's not TV. It's not radio. We are live and we're interactive, and it's so much better. You can actually get those comments or questions out there, and we can put them on the screen, as we need to. So, I can put something like, let's see, where'd that go? I can put something like this up on the screen, and we can get your comments out there. John Petrolino's in the house over on Facebook saying good evening, Patriots. So put those comments out there. We want to know that you're there. And if you're new, we'd like to know that you joined us for the first time and where you're joining us from too. G23 is not watching. He's listening. Okay, good enough. So you won't even know that I put you up there on the screen then, G23. All right, a few other things that we want to talk about, as we mention every week, because we're very proud that we have been included as part of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can find us. You can find a lot of really, really great podcasts, all of them gun or Second Amendment related. Those are all on the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can go to SDRN. That is stands for Self-Defense Radio Network, SDRN. Or for those of you that know the phonetic alphabet, that is Sierra Delta Romeo November .uniform Sierra. So sdrn.us, and get to all of the great podcasts that are there. Podcasts like Gun Freedom Radio, Eye on the Target Radio, Armed Lutheran Radio is up there. There's Locked and Loaded Latinos. So many great podcasts up there, and for whatever reason, ours is included too. Very, very proud to be part of that network. If you want to help us out a little bit and support the channel and get yourself some really, really cool stuff in the process, you can get a hat like the one Pat is wearing, modeling for us tonight on his noggin, that says Sandhills Shooter, or you can get the shirts like mine. Mine has the same logo on the back as my hat here, to help support Sandhills Sweetheart in her fight. This one says her fight is my fight. You can also get ones that say not today cancer. We've got both options there, hoodies and t-shirts and hats and coffee mugs. There are stickers out there, all kinds of fun stuff. So go to blackswantactical.com and find the Team Sandhills collection. Just order whatever you want to. Order one of everything. I'd be okay with that. You can get 10% off even if you use the discount code Sandhills. All right. And then because we are able to go, or the reason we're able to go live on both YouTube and Facebook tonight is because we've got a few sponsors of the podcast. So tonight's show is brought to you by Open Country Firearms in Osmond, Nebraska. And you can see the cool logo there on my hat. You can get cool hats, but the better thing is you can get firearms usually when there's not a pinch and he can't get anything in. But he's been very, very great about being able to track down firearms from all kinds of different vendors and keep those in stock. Same with ammo. He's always getting ammo in. It might not be a lot and it never lasts, but for all your firearms and ammo and suppressor needs, get a hold of Garrett Keel up in Osmond, Nebraska. Open Country Firearms. You can call him at 402-841-0970 or visit opencountryfirearms.com. All right. You know what? Let's just let's have a little fun tonight. We'll just see where this discussion goes. Let's see here. Charlie Cook is out there listening and reading Decoding Firearms. So there's a little plug from one of my other sponsors for one of my other sponsors. Yeah. And if you watch this show regularly, then you'll get to hear about Decoding Firearms and Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Charlie, I do want to talk about this just a little bit because I'm not just saying this because Charlie's one of our sponsors. I really do love watching Charlie's interviews on Riding Shotgun with Charlie. And for those of you that aren't familiar, he does this interview show where he's driving a car, and usually it's either his car or a rental vehicle that he's rented. Occasionally, he will not only get to interview an icon in our world, but he'll get to drive an iconic car like a Corvette. You need to go check out episode 100 that came out today. Charlie is interviewing the one and only Alan Gottlieb, who is the founder and executive VP of Second Amendment Foundation, which is in this interview, I found out they're actually the oldest lobby group for the gun industry in America. The Second Amendment Foundation predates the NRA ILA. And so that's kind of cool. But Alan's been doing this a super long time. Super swell, down to earth seeming guy. I've not yet gotten the pleasure to meet him in person, but from what I know about Alan, he's the same person whether he's on TV or testifying before Congress or just hanging out, letting Charlie drive him around in his Corvette. So go check that out on Riding Shotgun with Charlie. And you can find that on Facebook, YouTube, OpsLens as well, I believe. But you can see that interview. I'm not all the way through it yet because my commute to work and back isn't all that long, so it's not long enough to watch a whole episode in one day. So I've got tomorrow's commute pretty well covered too, listening, not watching, but listening to that in the vehicle. So all right. Have I missed any comments? Let's see who we've got going on out here in the chat. We've got on the YouTube side, Sandhills Sweetheart, Pat Hirsch is out there and in here, G23, Defense Dad is doing double duty as well, MKJO is in the house. We've got Petrolino and Gunpowder Beauty. Jesse is out there on Facebook. Charlie's on Facebook. And that might, GPB, Gunpowder Beauty, you're doing double duty too, Facebook and YouTube. Keith Gregory is in the house. So, and I know that there'll be more people coming along as the night goes. So go ahead and throw those comments out here. Here's what we're going to talk about tonight. There are a lot of people, both in and outside of our circle, and when I say our circle or our community, I'm talking about the pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment crowd. There are a lot of people in our community. There are a ton of people who are not part of our community, but you see them all over mainstream media, the news. They keep referring to this as a democracy, that, the United States is a democracy. Trump threatened our democracy or whatever. That word gets thrown around, and it happens so much and so often that there are people who out there honestly believe that our form of government is a democracy. And maybe that's you. Maybe you didn't even realize that that's not the case. And it's okay if you didn't. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. So I want to just give a brief overview. And I'm not a scholar on these things. These are just my own personal interpretations of the differences here. And anybody that wants to correct me, feel free. Now, if you're going to correct me in super minuscule things, then fine. I'm probably not going to put your comment up. But if I get something completely screwed up, then yeah, let me know. So let's go back before 1776. We were ruled by a monarchy, right? We were under English rule. We were under the rule of King George at the time. The king literally made all the decisions, right? And that one person was in charge, and they were the ones that made the decisions, and what they wanted happened. The problem is some rulers were great. Some rulers are benevolent. Some rulers have the subjects in mind when they rule. Others are very selfish, tyrannical, and they don't care about you or anybody else. They only care about themselves. And if you're one of their subjects, then in their eyes, they own you, which is mostly true. So they can do whatever they want with whatever or whomever they want to do it. Which means that if you said something bad about them and they had you killed or tortured or had your whole family tortured and killed, I mean, that's something that could have happened, right? The founding fathers of the United States did not want that. George Washington was actually approached and asked if he would be the king of the new country, and he declined. He said he did not want to be a king. We had I've tried to fact check this. There's not any actual documentation that this really happened, but a few different people have reported that this is what happened. We've kind of come to accept that this is probably true. But after the Constitutional Convention, when the framers were walking out, Benjamin Franklin was leaving the building, and there was a lady there in Philadelphia who was well known among the political circles. I think her name was Mrs. Powell, if I'm not mistaken. You can do your own research. She was very well known, well connected within Philadelphia there. But she asked Benjamin Franklin, she said, "What have you given us, a monarchy or a republic?" And he turned to her and he said, "A republic, if you can keep it." So I want to talk a little bit about what that means. What's the difference? Why are we not a democracy? Why are we a republic? And what's the difference between just being a republic and having what we really are is a constitutional republic? So let's get into that just a little bit. And so we know what a monarchy is, right? We have a king, in a monarchy, there's a king, and one person makes all the rules and has all the power. In a democracy, every person has equal power. Now, the reason that we're not a democracy is because every decision that the government makes can't be put in front of all the people every time for a vote. And that's what a democracy actually is. So we would have roughly 330 people that would have to decide everything that the government decides every time. We're not a democracy. More to the point, let's say that you've got 10 people in a democracy. If 10 people, if 9 of those 10 people vote that number 10 should be drawn and quartered, then in a democracy, that would be the rule. That would be the law. Whether it's ethical or moral doesn't matter. If in a democracy, if the majority votes that you should lose your life, you're going to lose your life. That's just all there is to it. So we're not a democracy. We have representatives who go to Washington, and when laws are formed, our representatives are the ones who we have elected to represent us in Washington to help form these laws, right? And we expect them to do a fair job of representing us. And if they don't do the job that we want them to do, then we'll elect somebody else to do it, right? So that's what a republic means. It means that you have representation, which was the big problem that the colonists had here in this country when they were still subject to the rule of King George. Was they were paying taxes, but they didn't have a say in the English government, right? They didn't get to make any of their own decisions, but they still had to pay their taxes. And so that's part of what happens here is you pay your taxes, but you do get representation, right? Now, even at that, if we did not have a constitutional republic, we just had a republic, here's what could happen is at any given point, if the governing body decided to change the rules, then they could change them however they wanted to. And if they had enough votes, then there would be nothing that we could do about it. And if they wanted to vote that we could never vote them out and that they had, unlimited power, they could vote that in. So there's got to be something to keep that from happening too, right? And that's where the Constitution comes in. The Constitution is our rule book. We are not ruled by people because people, let's face it, are jerks. And even if you get one, like I said before, with a king or a queen, you can have that benevolent ruler, right, who actually cares about the people that they're responsible for. But that only lasts until that king or that queen dies, and then let's say that the next one in line is that rascal that doesn't care about anybody. Well, we could have the same thing with our representatives, right? Which we've seen. I mean, if we're honest, we know that there are people right now in Congress that don't have our best interest at heart, but they're there. So what keeps them from getting too much power? We have a document. This country is actually ruled not by people who can change their minds or who can be selfish. And the framers of the Constitution and our founding fathers, they recognize that people are not perfect, and they built some safeguards into this country, right? They built us a document that makes sure that everybody plays by the same set of rules every time. It's like when you step onto a basketball court or a football field. Everybody is expected to play by the same set of rules every time, every game, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. That's why there's a rule book. Well, the Constitution is our rule book. So we are actually ruled by law, by how do I want to say this? By an objective set of laws that are not subject to being changed by a whim. That's the way that this works. And the laws are designed to be as fair and all-encompassing as they possibly can be. Now, again, we're not going to have the discussion about how sometimes people have gotten it wrong, right? We still are an imperfect, or we're run by imperfect people because we're humans. And the people who wrote the Constitution and then later on wrote the amendments to it, they understood, right? They knew that sometimes people screw up and we don't always get it right, and that's why we have the option to amend our Constitution. And then they also realized that some of these things they didn't think originally they were going to have to spell them out in black and white, and then they thought, you know what? Maybe we should list some of these things that say that the government can't ever take away or things like that. That they had to put up with when they didn't have their own government. And so that's where we have the First Amendment that says Congress shall not make a law that establishes a religion, right? Or the freedom of the speech. You can't be locked up for speaking out against your government. You have the right to petition to address grievances. You have the right to peaceful assembly. We've got all of these things that that the First Amendment affords us. We all, of course, know the Second Amendment. The Third Amendment says that you don't have to put troops in your house unless we're at war. They can't force you to house troops and feed them. Illegal search and seizure and all of the things that come after that. And we've gone through these before. I'm not going to reiterate all the amendments here. The thing is, that's why we have this document. We have these things in place. I've said a lot of words to get to this point here. We have this in place so that everybody's playing by the same rules, but now all of a sudden, we've got people that are trying to abuse their power and are trying to circumvent this process and are trying to change the rule book without going through the proper channels of doing so. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit tonight, is how things are supposed to work and how they're not working that way. And it hasn't begun only since January 20th of 2021. This didn't start with Biden. Okay, this has been going on for quite some time. I saw Trump do some of this stuff that I didn't like. I see Biden trying to do some of this stuff that I don't like. But the whole point is we have a constitution for a reason. And part of what I want to talk about is whether or not amendments are absolute. Because here, if you're paying attention, unless you live under a rock, you're probably aware that last week Biden came out and said no amendment is absolute. Well, I'd like to know then, if these are not absolute, who gets to determine the differences? Who gets to determine when it stands and when it doesn't? Because now we're looking at something completely subjective again. Now we've gone back to ruled by the whim of a person, which is the whole reason we have a founding document or a ruling document, is to avoid all of that stuff. So before we dig in any deeper, let me shut up for a second. Let me give Defense Dad and Pat a chance to sound off here with anything that we've covered so far.
Well, I'm going to, you follow politics a lot more closely than I do, but and I know it didn't just start with Biden, but since he came in, he's just trying to do, it seems like he's trying to do everything that he couldn't get done over the last 47 years just because now I'm president and he wants to do it because I said so. And as to him saying that the no amendment is absolute, why the hell have the Constitution?
Exactly.
Why have it? Because if we're not gonna abide by how this country is founded, then it's not a republic. It's gonna be a not really monarchy, but it's gonna be like he's trying to be all powerful, I guess. I mean,
that's exactly
it's ridiculous.
What he would just as soon be a monarch,
right?
Which is another, for those of you who,
or maybe an emperor. Let's go with emperor. Let's go with Star Wars.
Call it what you want to. A monarch, a king, an emperor, whatever it is that one person, Caesar. It's that one person who has all the power.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why Rome fell after they left the Republic and became an empire, I guess.
Well, the reason I said it that way is, again, Trump did some stuff too, but the amount of stuff that Biden has done since he's became in the last few months,
huge.
At what point does he get reined in and say you can't do this?
Well, and that's part of the issue that we have is the people that are supposed to rein him in don't seem to want to do their job either. And we've this none of this has happened overnight. All of this is the result of a slow burn, right? Or a slow fade. I mean, this is something that's been building and building and building for years, for decades in some of these cases.
Yeah, but all of a sudden
to
it's
get us
not
to where we are now.
all of a sudden it's not slow. I mean, look, we've got
You're right. It's snowballing.
so I mean, most of our government is controlled by, and I know I'm going to sound like a grumpy old bigoted whatever you want to say it, but most of our country and our government is controlled by very liberal people now. On in every facet of the government. Granted, they're not all that way, but it's a majority of the whole power. We got people trying to pass laws that just try to force laws and values on people that we don't agree with.
Mhm.
You can. There's some places now you can be thrown in jail for using your First Amendment, basically by refusing to go along with some of the guidelines that they've done. So it's just, I don't know, the whole thing just pisses me off.
Well, and we've gone from, sticks and stones may break my bones to words can get you put in jail.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is not the way that it's supposed to work. We're
No.
the only country on the planet that has the freedom of speech that we have. And it is being eroded and undermined at just about every turn, it seems like. You're right. And a lot of people don't understand that's the case. You go to any other country, especially if you were born here in the States and you grew up here in the States, go visit any other country, even as a foreigner. You do not have the right, especially as a foreigner, you don't have the right to go to that country and stand there and badmouth their government, whoever's in power at the time. You will get into trouble for that. We've seen, even in England, we've seen people who posted things on the internet who went to jail because of what they posted, because there is no protection in any other country of speech the way that it is here, and they're trying to throw it out here. It's just like no other country has a constitution that says right in it, although a few countries are working towards that, and believe it or not, Czech Republic is actually very, very close as far as the right of their people to keep and bear arms. I know is one of them, but I mean, the right to keep and bear arms and where it says shall not be infringed. I mean, again, I don't see how that's not absolute. I don't see how the First Amendment is not absolute. I if we want to step away from the first two amendments a little bit and just say that, that nothing is absolute. Well, how about this? How about the Fourth Amendment? I mean, that's not absolute. When is it okay for a police officer to pull over a motorist driving down the road for no reason whatsoever and then insist that they open the trunk with no warrant? When is that okay? No probable cause, no warrant, anything like that. And don't argue with me that probable cause means that the amendment's not absolute, because that is why we have the amendment. It is absolute. Without probable cause or a warrant, the police cannot have you open your trunk. They have no business going into your personal space. The police cannot walk into your house without your consent, without probable cause or a warrant. What gets us is that probable cause thing anymore is becoming open to interpretation as well.
Well, and let's use the shall not be infringed. I mean, and so, and not just in regulation, or not in reference to the Second Amendment. They're picking and choosing which amendments they're going to infringe on.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's only written in the second one, like they're picking and choosing what they're going to infringe on, what they're going to change to fit their idea of how to gain power, how to gain control. So as far as I'm concerned, infringing is not just about the Second Amendment, even though it's the only one it's really written into. It's just
right.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
I'm
go.
trying to collect my words without yelling and cussing.
Well,
I don't blame you.
I mean, there are a lot of people who are, I think, okay with the notion that, hey, there are extenuating circumstances, right, where it's okay to break our own rules and break these amendments and not follow them. And I'm talking about not the people, but the government itself. There are people that think that, hey, there's a time and a place that maybe the government doesn't have to follow its own laws. And here's the thing is, I don't care how many people think that. They can say that, 90% of Americans support universal background checks. Well, number one, I don't know anybody who got polled, but yet if 90% of Americans say that they're in favor of this, I would think that out of the people that I know, at least one of them would be somebody that said, yeah, they asked me and I told them, yeah. But I've never run across any people that ever got asked. I didn't get asked, and I bet none of you got asked. So how can they say that 90% of Americans support universal background checks when, I mean, yeah, I probably don't know 10% of Americans, but the chances are pretty slim that out of the people I do know, that one of them didn't get asked. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
I guarantee Pro 2A people make up more than 10% of the government. If they would have asked any of us, that would not.
Yeah,
there's no way. There's
Exactly.
no way.
And the thing is that they conflate and they change words and they use deception there too. There may be 90% of Americans who support background checks in some fashion, but a lot of people don't understand what universal background checks even means. And so when we go back into that, then I mean that changes everything when you put the word universal in front of it, right? But here's the problem is, even if 90% of the people do support this, it doesn't matter. We are not a democracy. We have a constitution that says this is the law. And just because the majority of people support it does not make it any more legal than if nobody supported it. You cannot make changes based on the whims of the majority in a constitutional republic. You have to go through the correct process in order to change the laws. And we're seeing people completely throw that by the wayside and do what they want to anyway.
Yeah.
And people being okay with it.
Yeah, definitely circumnavigating a lot of that stuff. And yeah, I think you had a Freudian slip there earlier, John, about we have a king. About Biden being the king. So
he wants to act like that, or somebody wants
exactly. I think
somebody wants him to time will tell. It remains to be seen who the real power is behind the throne there. Because I think if we're honest, we can all agree that Biden's not making the decisions that he should be making. Biden is not serving in the capacity that a president should serve.
No, not even close.
And I don't know anybody who can be 100% objective and honest that would think otherwise. Something's not right. I don't know exactly. I don't subscribe to all the conspiracy theories, and I don't know exactly what it is yet, but we will find. I mean, time will reveal. So, all right, Squib's here, and you wouldn't have hopped in if you didn't have something you wanted to say. So, howdy, and what's up?
Howdy, Squib.
Maybe he might not be at a point where he can talk on the.
Oh, there he comes.
90% of the poll data is 10% accurate.
Yeah, maybe. Although I've also I'm a firm believer that 85% of all statistics are made up on the spot at least 72% of the time, and 98% of statistics can be made to say whatever you want them to say at least 120% of the time.
That's actually better than what I said.
So I mean, don't. Here's the thing: if anybody doesn't understand how these polls work, let me give you a little hint here. Okay, when they poll these people and they show that 60% or 30% or whatever, this is not 60% of America. This is not 60% of Americans. This is 60% of the people that they polled. It's and you don't have to get very deep into a statistics class to understand how polls work. And you can have a poll say whatever you want it to say as well, based on who you poll, right? If if I wanted a poll that showed that 99% of the people favored felons having the right to vote and possess firearms when they're out of prison, all I would have to do is go to a prison and poll the inmates, right? But I wouldn't have to say that. I would just say that I polled, 500 people or 1,000 people, and 99% of them were in favor of felons being able to possess a firearm when they're out of prison. Well, it would
that,
make
or you could ask the question: do you think that if somebody has served out their complete sentence, that they've paid their debt to society? And if somebody goes, well, yeah, then you mark them down for they're saying that they can have guns and vote.
Yep.
You see how they twist it? The way they twist so many things. It's not what we're asking for, but we're gonna make it mean that.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, is always keep in mind that when you see statistics, when you see polls, those are not ever accurate. It's impossible to have an accurate poll without polling literally 100% of Americans. That's the only way to be scientifically accurate. Everything else is a sample. You polled a sample of Americans, but you can pick and choose who that sample is and try and skew the results that you get based on that. And you can also skew the results based on how the question is asked. I could take a poll and ask the same question with different wording and probably get different results. Any poll that you can give me.
Well, and kind of just alludes to what you guys are talking about, but so I'm going to relate this to my everyday life. I've been in sales for over 25 years at this point, right? You always hear this, the stereotypical, when people are analyzing things, numbers don't lie, right?
Right.
So you apply this to government. Well, I tell you what, you can have people sitting down there at a desk looking at numbers, and they're going to interpret it. And I'm talking just within the company you work for, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to interpret numbers based on what the trends are and what your higher ups say you're supposed to be doing, and you're going to try to fit them to that. You apply that to government. Tell me numbers don't lie. I mean, realistically, if you can interpret numbers in just a sales category and have it come out 5 different ways, apply numbers like the polls to something like a country that you're trying to run. Numbers don't lie is a bunch of crap.
No, again, maybe I'm splitting hairs here, but numbers don't lie. The problem is that people lie all the time about what the numbers mean.
And that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, math is absolute. And anybody that wants to say that 2 + 2 does not always equal 4, unless you're trying to write a thesis for your PhD, whatever, fine, granted, whatever. But here's the thing, 2 + 2 will always equal 4. You can relabel them anything you want. You could say, tuna fish plus Gouda cheese equals a sawhorse. But you can label whatever it is, but 2 + 2 will always equal 4 no matter what name you give it. It's still going to be true no matter what. The numbers will not lie. But we can lie, we can skew what they mean. We can look for parallels or correlations, and incorrectly assume that correlations mean causations, which we know better. And I saw this on a Facebook post, and I can't even remember where it was, where somebody was talking about correlations equaling causations, and that would say, if correlation, here's what they said: if correlation does not equal causation, then that means that flowers and most of the animals having babies does not have anything to do with springtime. Well, okay, but again, you are twisting the facts around to say what you want to say there. Just because the flowers bloom in the spring and most of the babies in the animal kingdom are born in the spring, that doesn't mean that when flowers bloom, it brings on the spring, right? That is not the causation. There is a correlation there, but there's no causation there. The fact that it's spring means that the flowers are going to bloom and that most of the babies are going to be born. That's how it works. It's the other way around. Don't say it backwards, because a baby being born does not make it spring, and a flower blooming does not make it spring. But spring does mean that flowers are going to bloom. Yes, that's how it works, and that's how nature is. But the correlation does not mean there's a causation. The fact that there are more children drown in homes with swimming pools than in homes without a swimming pool does not mean that swimming pools will make your kid drown. Of course, the numbers are going to show that the drownings are higher in the homes with swimming pools. That's just elementary, right? But that doesn't mean that a swimming pool is inherently dangerous, and that if you have a swimming pool, that somebody's going to drown in it. Obviously, that's not the case. So we can't. I didn't even realize we were going to talk about this kind of stuff tonight when I picked this for a topic. But let's go with this. I mean, clearly we can
John,
we
they're
can
doing
make
it here in Michigan with the COVID numbers.
yeah.
If somebody tests positive for COVID, then they automatically assume that everybody else who lives in that house is also positive without testing them. So if one person tests positive and there are 4 other people living in that house, they put down that 5 people got COVID without verifying it. In addition, 3 days later, when you're supposed to get retested to find out if it was a false positive, they don't retract that number when it does come up that it's a false positive. Now, that's how they skew the numbers, and that's why I got people in other parts of the country, yet again, contacting me going, oh, I heard your numbers are up in Michigan. It's like, no, but that's what they've been doing. And the only reason I know this is I've talked to people who have been affected by this. My family hasn't been affected by this directly yet, but I've talked to people, and I've had too many people that I know that don't know the other people that I know have said this, and it's like, okay, now this is starting to make sense. This is where the numbers are coming from. So like you said, they can skew the data to push whatever agenda they want. They can pull as many unverified ballots out of a box to win an election. They can do all kinds of things. So we have to be careful when we're looking at certain polls or looking at certain statistics. Now, that doesn't mean that all statistics are false. When you've got something that's kind of it doesn't really give any benefit one way or the other, or you can verify it. A lot of verifying out there, not fact checking, but verifying, things like that. And in a free society, we should be able to do that. In a free society, we should count on enough of us to do enough critical thinking to be able to debunk the fiction. But it just doesn't seem to be happening, does it?
Well, and I mean, I've been saying this for a long time, and I'm pretty sure I've said it more than once on this podcast, is that I don't care how many cases of COVID there are in a given area, in a given state. It does not matter if the cases are on the rise. Who cares how many cases there are? Because that's the number of positive tests. Now, like you said, if somebody tests positive and they can't go back to work until they get a negative test, then they're probably going to go back and get a test every day or every other day. There might be half a dozen positive tests before they get that negative test that lets them go back to work. But they're going to keep testing until they can go back to work. So all of those get logged in as a positive test. That pads the numbers of the cases, right? So what I'm saying, and maybe people will be upset by this, and I hope you are, because I'm making you think about this now. And sometimes it's uncomfortable to have your reality challenged a little bit. But who cares how many cases there are? Here's what I care about. Out of those cases, how many people actually had to go to the hospital and be admitted because they weren't going to get over this on their own? And out of the people that went to the hospital for treatment, how many of them are not going to come home? How many of them died? That's all I want to know about. And even those numbers are skewed because people are, I mean, we've gotten these reports from way too many different sources to not believe that this is happening at least some of the time. Is you can have somebody that went in there with heart failure and their heart stopped, and then they tested them for COVID. Well, they were positive. Okay, COVID death, because they were getting kickbacks for how many COVID patients they had, right? To get money to help treat that stuff. So we know that stuff was going on too. So I don't even trust the raw data on the number of deaths that we've had. But here's what you'll never see on the news: the number of hospitalizations and the number of deaths. Because the number of cases keeps rising. That makes sense. The more people we test, the more cases we're going to find, right? That's just obvious. That's how China got their cases to drop off to almost zero overnight. They stopped testing. We're not going to do that here. We're going to keep testing. We're going to keep having more and more cases. I said this from the get-go when we locked everything down. When they first started talking about opening things back up last summer, I said, be prepared for a surge in cases. It's inevitable when we put people back together again. It's going to spread. That's how disease works, right? It goes from person to person. You'll never see the news reporting on how many people are dying because that number keeps going down. It's slowing. The deaths are slowing down. Most of the people who are very susceptible to this disease already have been exposed to it, or by now we know how to keep them safer. And so the number of people dying from COVID-19 is really dropping off drastically. So they have to invent new ways to create panic and keep people under control. And that's really what it comes down to, is they are now using fear to try and control us. We've had the assistant director of the CDC actually said to Chris Cuomo on CNN that they have to use these lockdowns and the opening back up. They have to time it right to get people to get the vaccination, because the people that are refusing to get vaccinated, and I'm sorry, just because I don't get vaccinated doesn't mean I refuse. It just means I didn't choose to. Same reason I don't choose to dye my hair green, right? I'm not refusing to dye my hair green. It's just something I don't want to do, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not refusing to get the vaccine. It's just something I don't want to do, and I'm not going to do it unless I find a good enough reason to convince me to do it. So that being said, what's actually happening is we've got the lady from CDC coming on TV and saying, if we don't get these people to vaccinate and tell them that they can have their freedoms back with the vaccination, and these states keep opening up, these people are going to go out and enjoy their freedoms anyway without the vaccination, and then we have no way to control them into getting the vaccination. It's exactly what she said. Heaven forbid people go out and be free without government consent. I mean, just the other day, I saw another clip from Jen Psaki, the Circle Back girl, the press secretary at the White House, who said that one of the things that they're doing is once we get the vaccinations out, then that's when the administration will start talking about being able to have indoor gatherings of 10 people and backyard barbecues and things like that. We can start looking at that again once people get vaccinated. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm here to tell you right now, anybody listening, Mr. President, you do not give me permission to have a backyard barbecue or a gathering in my house. I will not ask your permission. I do not want, need, or require your permission to do what I want to in my home, because it is not illegal to get together. And that's where we've got too many people who aren't willing to stand up and say, don't tell me what to do. There's just way too many people.
Yeah, and actually that circles back right to what we were talking about before, being a constitutional republic.
Yes.
And we have these certain set of rules and everything. And just like Defense Dad brought up, okay, so we've got all these amendments, we've got the Constitution and everything. So if we have a monarchy, like Freudian slip, right. Sorry, John, I had to bring it up one more time. Yeah. And so why even bother having these set of rules and everything if we're just going to toss everything out the window? And we've got a guy that's signed more damn. Sorry, a little. This is starting to wear a little thin on me the last couple months. I'm about ready to.
You're forgiven.
Somebody. Anyway, to be able to do all of this and everything, and everybody, and I'm not saying everybody's ever followed all the rules through the Constitution and everything, but for the most part, you get up to here. And it has come to that snowball effect, and all of a sudden everything is going downhill like a son of a fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. Caught myself there. It's getting frustrating for the people that believe in the Constitution and want still confide in it when everybody else is not doing that.
Right. And that's where,
not playing by the rules and not doing what the Constitution says, and just taking a pen, literally just a pen on a piece of paper that's put down in front of him that he doesn't even know what the heck he's even signing. And that's been proven on 3 different videos, because there's a bunch of people in the background tossing him around like a freaking marionette. And so it just frustrates me to no end. So that's kind of my little rant. I could go on a little bit longer than that, but I'm just going to stop right there.
Earlier, before we went live, Squib and I were talking a little bit too, and then he had dropped out, and of course now he's back. But here's an analogy that I decided last night I was going to use as Sweetheart and I were watching a hockey game. And I mean, those of you that don't know this about me, huge fan of Colorado Avalanche hockey. So we're watching a game last night, and there was a call where there was a whole bunch of people got piled up in front of the net, and the call on the ice by the referee was no goal. The puck didn't cross the goal line. So the problem is it was really hard to tell, and they want to make sure that they got the call right. Now, the NHL has checks and balances, just like our government system. We've got 3 branches, right? Executive, legislative, judicial. And real quick civics course, the 3 functions of the functions of the 3 branches: the legislative branch makes the laws, the judicial branch interprets the laws, and the executive branch enforces the laws. That is the function of each leg of this 3-legged stool. If one leg gets weaker or than the others and it breaks, then the stool falls over, right? If one leg gets a little too powerful and is longer than the others, the stool's not balanced. And we have to keep everything fair and balanced and even, right? That's why they call it the 3-legged stool. Now, the NHL kind of has the same thing. We've got the governing board that if there's rule changes, they are the ones that get elected to those positions, and they make the rule changes. The board does that, and the commissioner. We've also got, and that's the legislative branch parallel. We've also got the referees. They're the ones that enforce the rules, right? So when there's a slash or a hook or whatever on the ice, then they're the ones that call it and hand out the penalties for it. And that's the executive branch's function, is to do that. Last but not least is that Patriot says, wish somebody would make a series covering all that. Yes, go to Patriot in the Dark and check out all the videos that he's made covering exactly all this. Way better than I can sum it up tonight. So last night we had a call on the ice that it wasn't 100% clear, and they needed better interpretation, right? Interpretation from what would be the judicial branch. There is a team of people located in Toronto, and every time there's a game, they are ready to view the videos and watch and see and make a final ruling on whether or not the call on the ice was correct, or if they're going to overturn it. Just like SCOTUS, they have to have irrefutable evidence, irrefutable video evidence in order to overturn the call on the ice. If it's wishy-washy, they're not sure, then that is not beyond reasonable doubt. It would be the parallel in my mind. So a call goes on the ice, no goal. Then the referees go over and confer with not only each other, but they actually talk to the people in Toronto. They're on a headset with these people in real time, watching the same videos over and over. And the governing, or not the governing body, but the people who interpret these things, they overturned the call on the ice and said, yeah, the puck did cross the goal line. And so then they called it a goal. Well, that is how it's supposed to work in our government too. We are not supposed to have, and here's what's actually happening. If the executive branch is the referee, right now we've got referees that are saying, you know what, here's the thing is, in order to be a goal, you can't just say that, that you shoot the puck off the stick and it goes across the goal line. What we're actually now saying is that you can't use a stick that you've been using before. You've got to use, a lot smaller stick, and then the puck actually has to go 12 inches past the goal line before we'll consider it a goal. And the referee just made that up on the spot and said, that's the rule we're going to play by. Even though we've already been playing, 2 periods of this hockey game without that rule. Well, now in the third period, this is the rule that we're going to go with because I said so. And there's nobody that can do anything about it. Well, that would never fly in any sports game, right? The referees, even though they're human and they get it wrong, that's why there are, checks and balances within such a thing, right? We can't have a referee that gets a little too big for their britches saying that I'm above the law or I'm above the rule book or I'm going to make the rules say whatever I want them to say. They have a rule book so that everybody plays by the same set of rules every time. And you know what to expect and you know what's legal and what's illegal within the rules of the game. We have that now. We have a document that says what's legal and what's illegal. And then we have other state statutes as far as murder and theft and things like that we do need to have. I'm not an anarchist. I do believe that some laws are necessary, but for the most part, we've got way too many laws. I mean, if what you're doing doesn't affect any other human being, how could that possibly be a crime? And that's the other thing I wanted to comment or to get into tonight is how can it be a crime when what you do only affects you, doesn't affect anybody else?
Exactly. Kind of like regulations, kind of like and granted, I know Trump didn't do everything perfect or anything, and there was things that I disagreed with him on.
Harrison.
Too. I know, right? Anyway, no, trying to get rid of government regulation or local regulations to free up and give us the freedoms that we should have had in the first place and not near as much government overreach. Now you can take regulation a lot of different ways, whether it be government or local or even or you own your own house where they say like you're a member of the HOA and they say, well, you can't do this in this cul-de-sac or whatever, but more regulations just equals just more frustration and less freedom as far as I'm concerned, because the more legislation, the more regulation. So anyway, that's my on the regulation.
You're right. And that's, again, as gun owners, and I've said this time and time again, as gun owners, we don't like being told what to do, what we can and can't have, right? Yeah. We don't like taking orders. Part of the reason why, if we're going to say that there's sides, then that's part of the reason our side could never gain any traction and all of us get together, right? Because nobody wants to be the private. Everybody wants to be the general.
Exactly.
Well, it's not just us as gun owners. I mean, it's us as people who have common sense and morals.
It's freedom-loving patriots.
We happen to own guns, but it's really not all about guns. It's about people that have the wherewithal to keep an eye on what's going on, have your values, have common sense, know what's going on, know what's right and wrong, know how to treat people right. It's sorry, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a gun owner to.
You're right. You're right. I agree. Agreed. We are the people who believe in absolutes, though. Not everything is fluid in our camp. And again, in our side, I don't even like using that kind of talk because, not everybody that is a gun owner is everything else that I am. Right? Not everybody who's pro-life feels the same way that I do about guns. Squibb and I agree on guns. We don't agree about pro-life issues, and that's cool. It doesn't matter. I don't want to just lump everything into general, everything is either one side or the other of a given line. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But the thing is that we believe in absolutes. We believe that shall not be infringed means that and nothing else. We believe that you can own whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, and that the government should keep its fingers out of your life unless you have encroached on somebody else's rights. Now, if what I've done means that I've jeopardized or taken away somebody's right to their life or their liberty or their property, then yes, I should be subject to punishment. Absolutely. But if I called you a bad name and you didn't like it, I mean, tough. Deal with it. Learn that the world's not nice and I'm not always nice and not everybody in the world is nice. That's a lesson that people need to learn. Excuse me. If I own a gun or a car or an animal that you don't like, then don't own one. But that it doesn't affect you, especially if you're not my neighbor and my dog doesn't bark and keep you up at night or anything like that. Then who cares what kind of dog I have? Who cares what kind of gun I have? Who cares how I carry it, whether or not it's exposed or covered up with my coat? I mean, that does not hurt anybody. None of my guns have ever hurt anybody and never will hurt anybody as long as they're in my possession, unless somebody tries to hurt me. Then I will try to hurt them back before they can hurt me. That is what self-defense is all about. So, I mean, when it comes to gun laws, most of them are completely asinine because all of a sudden we've got somebody who wants to, again, circumvent Congress and abuse their power to say that, oh, this thing that you bought and you didn't break a law when you bought it and you haven't been breaking a law to own it, but tomorrow morning, if you haven't given it up, well, then you're going to be breaking the law. But I've done nothing wrong. I didn't do anything wrong when I got it. I didn't get it illegally. I obtained it legally. I've possessed it legally. I've used it responsibly this whole time. Now, all of a sudden, they're trying to say that I shouldn't have this because suddenly I'm irresponsible because somebody said so.
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. Somebody, okay, this is again, this one gets under my skin. Bump stocks. And this is a Trump era thing. This is, I am not anti-Trump, but I'm not pro-Trump. I definitely am an anti-government getting in your business. And for the most part, so was he. And we agreed on a lot of things. Probably still do. But here's the thing. When it comes to bump stocks, I understand that the murderer in Las Vegas had at least one firearm, if not more than one, with a bump stock installed. But you know as well as I do, again, if we're honest, that if ballistics had matched any recovered bullets to the firearms that had bump stocks, they would have run with that right to the news. It would have been everywhere instantly. There's no way that we wouldn't have heard that if it was the case. The fact that we still don't know to this day if the bump stock equipped firearms were used in that shooting or not, because there were way more guns in that hotel room than what he used. The fact that we don't know if the bump stock got used means that they didn't get used, more than likely, because no bullets have been recovered that match up to those firearms. And they probably checked them out and found out they hadn't even been fired, to be honest. Or that news would have been out too, saying he used them. We haven't recovered the bullets, but we know it's been fired since it was clean. So they didn't even say that. But all of a sudden, they've used that instance as an excuse to take bump stocks away from all of us who didn't use them to murder people. Even the guy that murdered people didn't use them to murder people. But that all of a sudden makes it okay to take them away from the whole country? Again, this is an abuse of power. You've created a crime in order to punish people who did nothing wrong just to make yourself look good and gain favor with the people who don't like those scary things.
Yeah, and think about it this way. So short of them actually being successful in banning ARs, that kind of stuff, right? Let's just say they get what they want with the magazine restrictions of no more than 10 rounds, right? That's going to placate, make people feel okay, a little safer. Well, guess what? So every gun owner has a minimum limit of how many magazines per firearm they're going to want to own, right? So let's say now you have a limit of, let's just say 10 seems to be a popular number, 10 30-round magazines for your AR. So what are gun owners going to do if they do have to not use their 30-rounders? Now your number is going to be 30 because now you have 10. And now you just have to reload to protect yourself while the criminals still have the 30 rounds. I mean, that's just going to be something to placate the public, and it's not.
Well, and the thing is, every one of us, and this is not a firearm, so I'm going to hold this up. this is a 30 round magazine. Okay. Every one of us who owns this item at some point is probably going to have to decide at what point we're willing to become a criminal. Because if these get turned into NFA items or even just regulated in some way, whatever it is, whether it's a tax stamp or whatever is the case, at some point I'm going to have to decide, am I going to comply and still be a law-abiding citizen, or am I going to put my foot down and say enough's enough, not one more inch? And I can't tell you what that decision is going to be yet, because I'm not there yet. And hopefully we don't have to get to that point, but I fully expect that one day I'm going to be looking at the man in the mirror, trying to decide whether or not I want that man to be a criminal. And I don't like being put in that position, because what I own today may tomorrow mean that I'm a criminal. That's not fair to anybody. And I just said life isn't fair, and you're right, or I'm right, it's not. But again, that's why we have this document, is to keep things as fair as possible, and it violates the fairness, the sanctity built into that document to keep things fair for everybody. And by fair, I mean equal, just. Not just, oh, that's not fair. Well, neither's life. Life's not fair. We've got a comment out here, Seven Wonders. Why is it that folks who swore to uphold the Constitution are not held to their commitment? For two reasons. It's a kind of a complex answer. They're not forced to, Seven. Nobody's forcing them to uphold their oath. Why are they not being forced to uphold their oath? Because people are willing to keep voting them in. There's two reasons, two kinds of people that are allowing this to happen. Number one, the ones that want these changes to happen. And then there's the people who just don't care enough to get off their butt and go vote, or won't go and run and be the better candidate. Sometimes if you can't find a better candidate to run against somebody, that means that maybe you should look into being that candidate. Depends on what the race is. If it's for senator, that costs a ton of money. President, that costs a ton of money. Not everybody can do such a thing. I get it. But you can start local. You can go run for a city council seat. You can go run for a county commissioner seat. You can go run for school board, anything like that. I mean, all of these, we've seen a huge push in Nebraska to pass resolutions county by county to make each county a two-way sanctuary county. We tried to get that statewide, and that bill is currently stalled and probably not going to get out of committee at this point. But each county,
my county will never get it.
By the time by this afternoon or this evening, over 50% of the counties in Nebraska have now adopted resolutions, and we've got, I think, 7 more that within the next 2 weeks are going to have a vote to adopt similar resolutions that say that the sheriff's not going to enforce or allow enforcement of unconstitutional laws to be enforced, things that the president is trying to be a little too big for his britches, things like that. Enforcing a ban on this little piece of aluminum and steel. It's just completely bogus. And so Nebraskans are starting to make a statement, and I have never seen anything take hold across my state as hard and fast as this has. I mean, the map that the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association is using to keep up with these counties and get this info out to people, the green counties are the ones that have adopted resolutions. There is a green wave moving across this state. I mean, it's like a tidal wave, or it's like a wildfire. It's literally spreading as fast as wildfire does. No, puppy.
Yeah. And I want to butt in for just 2 seconds. Webster County, where I live, is definitely one of those. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord, and pass the ammunition.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'd like to see it all green, but I guarantee it could very well possibly be the entire state turns green, except for the 2 counties that stayed blue during the election.
Yeah, more than likely. Well, in one of those counties actually is in the red in the election, but you're right. Your county I don't think probably has much of a chance either. There's actually a couple counties. There's going to be out of 93 counties. I don't think we get 91 green counties, at least not the rate we're going, because a couple of them have already had the votes and nixed it. And we're working on finding out more about those counties, and maybe we'll show those in red on the map that we've got going on. But right now, green means they've passed it. Yellow means that it is it's coming up for a vote, and white or gray, whatever, is no news yet. Nothing's been introduced that we're aware of. So we're working on keeping that as up to date as we can. But I think there were 9, 10, 11. I don't remember exactly how many counties passed resolutions just today, or just in the last 2 days, and more coming up all the time. So there's a guy, I think, in Virginia who is keeping track of this nationwide. And he said that he's not even seeing anything in any other state like it's happening here in Nebraska. And what's cool is it's all done county by county. There's not a driving force. There's not an NFOA. There's not an NRA or anybody like that is behind this. It's 100% each county is doing this on their own. The word may be kind of spreading a little bit now, but again, this is not something that my organization is behind. We're just cheerleaders. We're on the sidelines. Each county's getting it done. And I think that when other states see this, I think that those of you that are in other states, you're going to see kind of a similar thing happen too. What I want to see is most of the states in the union have just a ton of counties who are willing to adopt this resolution that says, heck no, you won't take our AR-15s, our AK-47s. We're not willing to put up with things that violate our Constitution. And that's what it comes down to. The reason we have a Constitution, like you said, Defense Dad, why have it if we're not going to follow it? A lot of us are willing to put our foot down and say, we will follow this. You can get on board or you can get out of the way, but we have a set of laws in this country that we do expect to be followed. And if we don't like the laws, we have a process to change them. We'll do it the right way, but we can't just go in and sign something with a pen and say, well, the law is different now. That's not how it works. No one person is supposed to have that much power, not in a constitutional republic. That was designed out of the equation. That's what a monarchy is, when one person has that kind of power. We don't want that. We've never wanted that. And nobody that I know wants that. Not if they think about it. Can't I say and all the time? It's just going to happen. Sorry. So here's what's going to happen is we're going to have people that are like, well, I think that there should be somebody that can make those decisions, and one person should have all that power. But now we're subjective. We can't trust somebody. What if we get somebody who is trustworthy? Great. They'll make good decisions. They're not immortal. They will die. They will get replaced by somebody. And if they're that good, the chances are that somebody else comes along better. Very slim. A lot higher chance that we get somebody that's worse. I'm not as worried about Biden as I am about who's going to be in office in 4 years, in 8 years, in 20 years. What are we setting up the stage for at this point? That's the principle that I think a lot of people aren't considering. Anybody who is upset about proposed gun control measures, we're not upset about the guns. Our objection to gun control is not about the guns. It's about the principle that you can't start eroding rights and then expect them to stop eroding at some point. So it's just, go ahead.
Sorry, but the people, again, they don't understand that. They, just because guns aren't important to them, they don't need them. They think it's okay to infringe that. They haven't started coming after anything that they hold dear yet. So what they don't understand is we cave on one and they just are gonna keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. That's what these people have to understand. It's not it's not about, it's not all about the guns. It's about standing up for your rights and what's just in general right.
And yeah, exactly. That the issue that I had with the bump stock ban was not about the bump stocks. It was about the ban. The issue that I have with gun control is not about the guns, it's about the control.
Yeah, they're trying to do everything to control. Like back to not to move it back to COVID, but there was a point I was going to make.
Yeah, go ahead.
You kind of did, but they're still using COVID as a way to control people and make them have fear. Like, so now everybody's having their vaccine, but it's still not okay to stop wearing masks. It's still not okay to get together. They've still got people so afraid of this crap. I have family members that basically you've seen a bunch of people on Facebook showing their vaccination stamps or whatever. And I got family members who have announced that they're coming to Nebraska and they are hoping to see everybody, but they will not visit anybody who hasn't been vaccinated. Mm-hmm. So they are still controlling and making people so fearful of everything. And it's gun control, whatever. You're right. It's about the word control. It's not about the gun. It's all about how they can still keep enough fear so that people cow down and do whatever the government says is going to make them safe.
Well, exactly right. I saw a headline, and I didn't get the details yet where this happened, but there was an island somewhere that is in threat of a volcano eruption, and they started to evacuate the island, but apparently they're only evacuating the people who have their vax pass or whatever, that have the papers to prove their vaccination. So apparently now you're not even a human. You're less important if you haven't been vaccinated in certain areas, which doesn't make any sense. But that's, again, we're okay. We're okay lately. We as a society, we as a country, we as a people in whole have never been against discrimination. We've never been against racism. We've never been against singling out a certain group of people. We've said that we were, but we've got people now that are claiming that white people should pay restitution, that if you're not vaccinated, that you shouldn't have your freedoms. We've actually got a lot of people who are completely willing to discriminate as long as they're the ones that get to control the discrimination, is what it comes down to. So, we've always tried to act like we're a little bit better than we are in a lot of areas, and I think that's one of them. So it's just talking about white privilege, things like that, and I don't want to get into that tonight, but again, complaining about white privilege is just saying that you support racism as long as it's against somebody that's not you. And I don't agree with it for any reason, whether I'm white or not. I'd like my privilege to kick in at some point. I don't see it happening near enough. So I got to figure out how to use it right, I think, is part of it. So, okay. Anything that any of the three of you want to mention before we start wrapping things up? I think we've probably beat this horse about as much as we can beat it tonight.
How to spell his name.
Okay. Ashley had something she was going to say.
Yeah. Well, in 2 seconds, she was about ready to fill something out here. Beating a dead horse 3 or 4 or 5 or maybe 20 times. But I still got to go back to the constitutional thing. I mean, the founders laid out a set of rules that everybody was supposed to play by. And I know it's been kind of a slow burn, or kind of peaks and valleys, if you will, up and down on what people will play by. But here lately, as I see the president before and the president after, and the one was trying to unregulate and deregulate everything and trying to get things to move faster, and businesses and stuff trying to come up and trying to build this country back up a little bit from where we were at, to clamp it down pull it back down into the ground. Government runs everything. That's the way I see it.
Mm-hmm. Nope, I don't think you're wrong at all. I do want to mention before we go, Seven's got another comment that I want to put up here and just address this real quick. Sandhills shooter, I understand their determination to control us is unacceptable. However, I'm not willing to give up my guns. Told wifey several times that I might die during a gun confiscation. Now, I am not going to disparage that at all. You make your own decisions. That's what I'm all about, is you making your own decisions, as long as they don't affect other people, right? So when it comes to me, I've thought about this a lot. And if I was actually facing people coming to my door to literally disarm me, I don't think that is the point at which I martyr myself, because I still see myself as responsible for my wife's safety when we're together. I still see myself as a husband as responsible for helping her out, and I don't want to say taking care of her in the sense that she's not able to live without me. Sure, she would be okay without me, but she chose to do life with me, and I don't want to take that away from her just on the principle that, you know, yeah, I don't want to give up my guns either, but at the same time, I don't want to make things harder for her by burdening her with me not being around, dealing with everything else on top of my death now too. I hope I'm never put in this position, because I don't see myself doing the death before dishonor thing. And I don't think that makes me a coward as much as it makes me a husband. And, you know, it goes back to, what was that movie? The Patriot with Mel Gibson, where they were trying, you know, he was fighting, or he was speaking out against going to war and fighting the revolution. And they said, how could you possibly do this? You know, what about your principles, man? And he said, I'm a parent. I haven't got the luxury of principles. Well, I'm a husband, and I haven't always got the luxury of principles either. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And let's be honest, if you're not faced with such a situation, you really have no way of knowing how you'll react until you get there. So I'm not, I'm not saying any of this to say that what Seven said was wrong in any way. You absolutely, if your conviction is to stick to your guns literally, then fine, do that. Absolutely, that's great. I'm just saying that if that's not your conviction, maybe that's okay too, because I don't know that it's my conviction. So maybe I'm just looking to justify how I feel about it too. Maybe I need that validation. I don't know. Real quick, I do want to say a huge thank you to Ashley Hirsch for the super chat. She says, keep up the good work, Sandhills shooter and Sandhills sweetheart. We very much appreciate the super chat. Thank you for that. Okay, I think we're gonna just kind of wrap things up and call it a night. So we'll just give everybody a chance to kind of wrap things up and sign off here real quick. Before we do that, one more time, if you want to have somebody that is a super cool, very personable fella looking for a firearm for you, trying to help you find that firearm, find that ammo that you need, go to Open Country Firearms over in Osmond, Nebraska. Talk to Garrett Keel over there. You can phone him at 402-841-0970, or you can go to opencountryfirearms.com. But we are live on YouTube and Facebook, both thanks in part to sponsorship there from Garrett with Open Country Firearms. So go check him out, give him some love. He said that he has had people come in that said that they found out about him from watching this. So that's great. I'm glad that he's actually getting some business back from the things that we do here, because we have definitely benefited from the things that he's done for us. So it's great to hear that. Okay, let's wrap this back up here a little bit. We'll just kind of go around the horn and let everybody say goodnight. Anything they want to say. Squib, do you have anything you want to add?
Nope.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, and thanks for the opinions that you did share with us tonight.
Wait, no.
Okay.
I'm going to change my mind like I changed my mind about coming on the show.
That's okay.
I just took a quick peep and I noticed how Nebraska-centric the show was, and I decided to be my own checks and balances.
Are you
I'm
afraid?
just an example.
Are you afraid that the Cornhuskers may try to take over the world?
Heaven help us if you do. I just think that, just needs to be a little bit more even keeled.
I agree. I mean, the thing is, sometimes I can't get anybody to come play with me, and so
if you'd move out of Nebraska, I'm just.
wow, shots fired. You've been, it's been to Nebraska, so it's not like he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of making a bigger jerk out of myself than I normally am, because it is true. Once you get off the interstate, it is a nice. Even though I haven't been up to where you're at, Sandhills, eventually I'll get up there, and I'm kind of more interested in going into Western Nebraska again. Yeah, I had to impose my own form of checks and balances.
Well, I mean, thank goodness for everybody out there watching and listening that you did, because we don't want any one state to have too much power either. California. So, or New York or any of those. We don't want them to make all of the rules for us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Squib, I'll put it this way. You are welcome at my fire, or I can probably speak for most of us on the panel, anybody's fire. So just
yeah. My wife says yes, Squib. So
okay, well,
ruled me.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. He made fun of my favorite color today, so
he made fun of orange.
Yeah.
Oh, ouch!
Orange. He's one of them people. He's one of them orange peoples.
Oh, that'll happen.
Orange.
At least he didn't say orange. He could have said orange. I have a friend from high school that we always used to make fun of her because she said orange. So it could have been worse. All right, Pat, anything that you want to throw out there before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I'll do a shameless plug. I've got some first shots videos on the Ruger Max 9 and the Smith & Wesson 9mm Plus. So if you want to go over to my channel and check that out, I am on YouTube at Pat Hirsch. So you can look that up pretty easy. And we're going to be doing some follow-up videos on some concealed holsters. I'll just do a little name drop right here. Comfort Tac. And I've been wearing it for the last couple weeks with the Smith & Wesson, and has been doing really good so far. And yeah, so just go and check all these guys' channels out, up top, left, and down in the bottom. So yeah, thanks for having me on. And yeah, had a good time tonight. Definitely a good conversation. Went a million different ways, which that's always a good thing. So thanks again.
You betcha. Thanks for being here. All right. And last but not least, so since we all know now that your favorite color is orange, I'm going to start calling you our own version of Orange Man Bad, I think.
If like I told Squib today, if you pay attention to my channel, it's pretty obvious that orange is my favorite color.
Yeah, it's not news to me. That I did know.
Yeah, I promptly responded, yeah, but I don't pay attention to your channel. Oh.
Yep.
I thought you were going to say that you don't see color.
Damn, shots fired for sure on that one.
It's okay. For what it's worth, not that many people pay attention to mine either.
Mine either.
But yeah, thanks for having me tonight. It was a good conversation. I did drop a couple videos here this week that are actually not gun related, or so hopefully people watch them, and I'll have some more gun content coming up pretty soon.
Very cool. All right. And real quick here, I just became an affiliate for Greater Half. If you've seen my cool football jerseys, my Second Amendment, or my USA or my Second Amendment football jerseys, you can get those from greaterhalf.com. And here is my affiliate link. there in the chat. Go check out, get all your cool patriotic gear. They've got some cool stuff. Some of it I like, some of it you might like more than me, but they've got jerseys and t-shirts and hats and all kinds of fun stuff out there. So go check them out. That just happened today. And I haven't even got that up on I think one post on Facebook. I haven't got it out to YouTube yet, aside from here. So you guys got to hear it almost first here. I haven't even told my wife that yet. She knows now because I just told you guys. So she's learning with it. Anyway, all right, I think that's it. I think I don't think I'm forgetting anything else. We're going to wrap this up. The dog's getting restless. We're going to let her out to do her business too. Hi, you want to come up here? Say hi to everybody. Come here. Come here. She's getting too big to do this. Oh, come here, you. There we go. She's not just a little tiny puppy anymore. She's getting big, guys. She's about 6 months old here in another couple days. So, anyway, had to show the puppy off a little bit. On behalf of Squibload and Pat, not Lily, but also Ashley, on behalf of Defense Dad and Sandhills Sweetheart, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for the comments. Again, Ashley, thanks for the super chat. Anybody that wants to support us, you can sure go check us out over on patreon.com/SandhillsShooter as well. But here's the thing is rather than your money, I would much rather have you just help me grow our reach and our audience and just share the link to these, share the post that we do. And go, if you're in Nebraska, go check out Nebraska Firearms Owners Association and the work that we're doing, or it right now, the cheerleading that we're doing, because none of this is on us. It's all been everybody else. So thanks for that. Go check us out. Like this video and share the link to this as well. And keep on, everybody. We've got the list going on here. Over on Facebook, we had Kent, Charlie, Jesse, John, and Christopher. And then on YouTube, we had Pat Hirsch, G23, Defense Dad, MKJO, Gunpowder Beauty, Keith Gregory. The dog wants to read now. Dead Horse was out there. Mystic Guns, Vash Matrix, Tim Foley, Seven Wonders, Wheeled and Well Armed, Gun Loving Grandpa, Patriot in the Dark, DJ Play Nice, Net Flutter, M. Gabriel, and Idaho Rogers, USMC. So thanks everybody for making this what it was tonight. We love you. God bless you all. You know what time it is. We got to go. You've got to go. Get off my lawn.